So before we hop into today's episode, let me give you a little bit of context. You are about to listen to a live recording of the very first Founder AI Studio Live that happened in Toronto. And here's the thing. It was full with some of the most amazing women that I know. We're talking intellectual property strategists, AI users, AI educators, community builders, investors. And these are not just women who are using AI, but they are building with AI. And we had our first set of sponsors. Shout out to Perspective Studios Production, who is responsible for this amazing live episode, and the BDC, who believe in women and everything that needs to support them in their business. So they were there for us. Okay, side note. Now, this conversation was one that I wanted to have for so long, in particular around women who are building with AI, because I meet so many women who are like, I'm afraid to use AI. I don't know what to do. And here's the thing. These women come from all different backgrounds, have built businesses from, the multi 6 figures to the multi 7 figures, to have exited companies. And we're all playing in the same pool right now. Who are we with AI? Who are we without it? And what are we going to build next? So pay attention, lean in, because you're not going to want to miss any of it. Let's get into it. Welcome to Who Knows You, the podcast about authority, visibility, and what it really takes to be known for your work. But today is different. This isn't a keynote, and this isn't a panel. This is a live roundtable discussion. Andrea and I will guide the discussion, but the value is the collective intelligence in this room. And as questions come up, I want you guys to grab the mic. Please keep your responses under 2 minutes so we can hear from as many voices as possible. And I want to thank all of you for being here. And I am just genuinely super excited to get into this is like a Super Bowl. I like to sit around and talk to smart women about smart things that we love. This is what I love to do. So we're here to compare notes from the front line. We're not necessarily here to really predict what's happening in AI. I mean, I'm open to anyone who's seeing some trend coming down the line, please share. But we're at the front lines of it. So that's what we want to hear about. What have you seen? What have you experienced? What do you want to share? And we're going to take it in a couple of different directions. So let's get into it. Now, the first question is actually going to be posed to anybody here. And that is, if someone gave your competitor access to every prompt, workflow, GPT, Claude project, AI system, and process you use today, would you still have a competitive advantage? If yes, what is it? I see Lorraine is nodding. Would you like to be the first one to respond? We'll pass her the mic. Thank you, Seema.
I believe, yes. I feel confident that I would still have a competitive advantage because in this day and age, to me, the only way to really single out yourself is with your own personality and the trust. I would almost say the degree to which you bring your heart to your clients is what makes a difference nowadays. I was looking at the aisle in a grocery store for a feminine product the other day and I had to laugh. I'm past that time, but I remember when there was 3 choices on the shelf. Now there's like 45 choices on the shelf that all do the same thing, right? So to a new person walking in, what is the difference? For me, it's definitely going to be that fact that somebody feels like their hand was held after they dealt with Lorraine Telsport. It wasn't a cookie cutter approach.
I love that. Natalie?
Sure. Hi, I'm Natalie. I was going to say definitely would still have an advantage because you are you. And I think that creativity and being able to think outside of the box and being able to come up with these ideas is really, really important. That makes you who you are and who, you unique. So I think that people who are very creative will have an advantage. People, with design backgrounds, people with, backgrounds in storytelling and world building, so you have that creativity there where that helps you expand it, I'd say. So that's my thought there.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, especially with the creativity. I think we're all creative in different ways, but just to speak to the design side, you can have somebody put in a prompt to build a landing page, for example, and then somebody who has the creative language to build one, it's going to be night and day. Yeah. So I think leaning into our expertise And I think it's going to be a huge advantage. And I don't know where it's going to leave people who are just starting out in whatever that career is. But the people, like the people in this room who've got, we're talking 10 plus years on business and the things that they do, I think are going to have a huge advantage going forward.
Hi, it's Tamika here, and I just wanted to build on that. I think one of the pieces that we talk about a lot, I work for a agency that supports B2B CEOs, and we always talk about we're very AI forward, very AI powered, but we talk about being the tastemaker. So there's nothing that we do amongst all of our workflows and agents and everything else that doesn't require a human touch to actually make it that better. AI is great. I'm sure we'll get into some of the downsides of using it and relying on it, but ultimately you have to be able to add that taste, right? And I think the other piece that I think about as well, one of the things that we do a lot is work on the founder-led brand. And I think we're seeing all of these companies get built and they're AI powered. And so they can look really similar to the earlier point of, the number of feminine products on the shelf. There's going to be the number of whatever, competitors in whatever industry. And actually it's kind of like that with many things already. The differentiating factor is going to be the brand, right? Which I think is going to be an interesting piece. I'm sure Monique, you're already seeing that, right?
Yeah, no, brand, I think huge.
I'd love to hear your perspective on it, Kanan, because I think such a large part of distinction going forward is not going to be your knowledge. It's going to be the experience that you create and the community that you can wrap around. Can you speak to that? Because I know you've got a really strong community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the things that I have found using AI has pointed me towards is going deeper into my own humanity. Like if we want AI to sort of, output something that feels real to us, that resonates with us deeply, then we need to access a deeper part of ourselves. So I feel that this is like an opportunity for so many of us to go deeper within into our own humanity, into our own experience, and bring that to AI. And for every woman who is a part of my community, it's the same, right? So what can we create? What can we imagine that can only come from being a human, right? And having all the gifts that we have as humans who are still evolving, by the way. How can we now use AI to magnify that? That's sort of what I lean into.
Yeah.
Seema?
Yeah, Seema here. I actually think I almost want to flip the question because I think there's an opportunity in the idea that we could actually open up a competitive force. The idea that it is easier for people to access the tools, to build the products, to get into things that are technology-wise, otherwise previously intimidating, is actually an opportunity for increased competition in a positive way for people who have not previously been able to participate in various types of businesses, various types of pursuits that suddenly now can. And I agree with everything that's been said about sort of the unique factors around relationships, around taste, around creativity. All of those are true, but the fact that the building, the administrative, the technological are a little bit more accessible than they've ever been is actually a democratizing force that for women, for people from marginalized groups, I actually think is a really big opportunity for people to participate in. And whether that's at sort of very large scale or very small scale, regardless, I think that that's a huge opportunity for people to participate in a way that's actually quite exciting. Maybe we haven't seen that happen yet. Certainly, I think that with AI, we've mostly seen a concentration of power versus sort of a distribution of one. But I think there's a huge opportunity for the distribution of power and opportunity and wealth if we take it.
I love that. I 100% agree with what you're saying. I think that, Andrew and I were talking before we started, and you were talking about something that we had heard just around like people who are building straight, like they're starting their business from the AI lens versus those who are trying to inject AI in afterwards are going to have a huge advantage. And it sometimes makes me question all the things I'm building because I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing, but also if I was to start from scratch, how I wouldn't know yet how I would do it differently.
Exactly.
I don't know if anyone has like, if you've thought about that for your own business, but I'm like, I spent like 7 months in an AI hole trying to learn all these things. And it came back full circle to me asking chat, what is my competitive advantage? And it had nothing to do with processes or anything. It was, you've got the experience and you've got the trust online around authority and brand. Lean into that and use AI as a tool to propel that. And I still want to build something that's AI native, right? So I know some of you guys are already doing that, but it's just very curious how it's all going to like shape out. And I do think that people who had no way of building anything before now have a huge advantage, especially when the people, I don't know what the stat is right now, maybe somebody else does, but predominantly it's women and women of color who are being laid off from the job force right now. And it's horrible, but it's also an opportunity. Like, I never really believed in necessarily job security. I think you make your own security. But it is now a time for women to be like, okay, well, I literally could build anything. You just unleashed me, you know? That's my thoughts on that one. Yeah. So what's something in your business that only became possible because of AI? I can start there because I literally can build anything my brain can come up with, and I don't even think I've scratched the surface. One of the key things is I used to hire a lot of contractors in my agency. They were the #1 expense. When I looked at my money over the last 3 years, I said, where is it? And my accountant said, look at your line item for contractors. They are making all the money. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous. So one just basic was, okay, well, I do strategy, they do the brand assets. Now I can do everything on my own because I already had that creative language. I just didn't know how to code. And now I can build the most epic websites, Andrea's sites, that you've ever seen, right? And I think just women being able to keep that profit, you know, until Lorraine and just in the financial space, is going to be so vital going forward. So for me, that was never possible before, and I can build so much faster. Who else?
I think for me, like, because organization and keeping things together are really important in my field, being able to do that without a lot of other hands, like being able to reduce the workforce and also understanding what's important, being able to make data-driven decisions, that piece, in a way that was much more expensive before having all these AI tools, I think has really, like, you need to follow your gut, but you also need to be able to know what's actually happening. And AI has been a really powerful tool for me to cut through kind of the woo
the fluff,
and the
fluff.
fluff
It's
and
like,
look at the numbers and look at the data.
Someone's looking at this post. So many
Yeah.
people opened it, but I think it also made me like it made me super interested in data. Like, I was
Yeah.
never interested in data before. I was like, number. Blah.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, well, because AI can be the data person on my team
And can interpret it for you.
and can interpret it, it can tell me things, and then I can decide, like, is this a direction I still want to be going?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monique, you raised such an important question around, like, how would you build, what would you rebuild, what would you create now that AI is here? And I wanted to speak to that because I'm not running my own business today. I did for 14 years. And one of the reasons I stopped running it was that conversation you just said about contractors. I'm looking at multiple 6 figures in contractors and thinking about, how do I grow? How do I scale? How do I do things differently? And the answer is, I mean, maybe I get a loan, but it wasn't really what I wanted to build. And even to get the data to sort of figure out, oh, well, what would I do differently? Like, that's another line item as well. So it's really interesting for me personally, being in the space of, you know, working in another agency, seeing how we're AI powered here, and thinking about, you know, one day I might want to build something next or different. And what would that look like? One of the key pieces, I think, for anyone who is in any sort of business that has like done for you deliverables or outputs, right? And that's what my original agency was. And the business I work for now that's AI Power, we have tangible outputs, content. Just even thinking about how you can cut the timeline on like what you're producing, what you're creating, and even shifting from a like done for you, you know, all tied up in a bow, to something that's like done for you ish, and then you put the, you know, the finishing touches, like whether you do it or client does it. There's just so many different business models, I think, now that are available, again, especially if you're in kind of the services space, or the space that has some kind of a done for you component, that we're not even like, I don't even know that they exist yet. Like there's certainly like little, you know, breadcrumbs. I mean, walking into the AI studio live today, and we did our little, you know, what does AI say about you, Monique? Like that's something that I'm sure you can imagine, like you would have probably had to like hop on a call with people, or you could have like a little survey, but it wouldn't really tell people that much. Or like, how would you really audit somebody to the level that this thing does? Right?
So I have exactly 450. No, now everyone's probably 460 of those audits. And when would I have had time to do that amongst everything else? Like never. It's just made things so much more possible. Gina?
Yeah, I think, hey, it's Sheena. I think what's really interesting about this is I don't have a background in code. I have a background in building things. But when AI started to come together, it got me really curious about what I could build. But I found when I'm in build mode, there's a lot of talking about this hypothetical thing I'm trying to build. This idea of transforming education, making curriculum better for boys. Those are nice, fluffy words, but like, what does it actually mean when you put boots on the ground? So as a builder, AI really changed that. Like I can test and vet and iterate day in and day out. And I can take this hypothetical idea or problem I want to solve and put it into action and realize, ooh, I actually have no idea what I'm talking about. Oh, wow, I have huge holes here. Or I had no idea that this would be a database that I actually have to build out and connect the dots so that it actually does the thing I'm talking about, which just means I'm moving faster. I'm moving bigger. It isn't a hypothetical idea. It has the potential to become a real business. So where maybe we talked about these things over 6 or 12 months, it's happening in hours. And by having a community, like I have a couple of women at this event here that I lean on every day to say, hey, I'm trying to do this thing and I'm stuck. Oh, hey, try this prompt, do this, plug it in here, ask this question. It's like, oh, okay. And so AI allows me to iterate faster. The community around that allows me to move. I'm more knowledgeable. I'm more aware. It just means it's faster. It's better. It's what we're talking about every day. So I think AI is just allowing us to really move quickly.
I just the part you say about like you're more knowledgeable. It's so interesting how I went from a non-techie, like do not talk to me about how move this here on a landing page, nothing, to like loving it. And I never got in my years I'd be talking about that. But it's like you said, it's the speed. I think that's what before it was like the tape. I actually built up a lot of AI courses to take before I started doing it. And literally, I mean, this is one thing I think chat got right. It was like, Monique, you don't need to take any courses.
Just do it.
You just need to do it and build some case studies. And I was like, yeah, but I want people to see that I know what I'm doing. And it was like, shut up. Be much as that. And I was like, you talking to me, chat. Okay. But you build the thing or you test the thing, it didn't work. You ask for its understanding. That was like the big piece. It was like, I would say to it, like, speak to me like a fifth grader. I don't know what you're talking about. And I just felt like no judgment. So I could do that. And I didn't feel like I had another place to do that.
Yeah.
Seema?
Monique, what you're saying is like really resonating because I think what you're basically describing is like learning, like the speed of learning. Like, yeah, like it's just like that's great. Like it's like it's changed the way that we learn, right? Like and this to me was the big unlock, was just the idea of like anything I need to do in my business in my life is now suddenly I can learn it better and I can learn it in the way that works for me. And it can get very personalized, right? Like I can learn in this moment, why is this not working? And I can figure it out and troubleshoot it myself in ways that this would have intimidated me before. And that goes back to the access point, right? Because it's like, if learning is this much more available and personalized and accessible, what does that mean is possible now? Because if we can all figure out how to do a lot of things that we couldn't have done before, and we can do so in a way that's at our pace, personalized to the specific situations we're dealing with, what does that mean that's possible for our lives, for our businesses, for our creative talents? Like that to me is really, really interesting, because it's like that, if we can learn how to do the thing we didn't know, if we can learn like the things we didn't know, like that type of thing is actually really, really hard and has been part of the asymmetry of information that has existed in a lot of what are systemic problems that hold a lot of people back. Comes down to who knows how to get things done, who knows the right people, who knows the way you're supposed to do this. And that's what determines often who gets to sit at the top and who doesn't. And I think that if that is a form, in the same way when the internet happened, like that was a huge opening up of access to information that didn't exist before, where you had to be in the club to know how things worked, how to get things done. And suddenly now with AI, it's another form of further democratizing access to knowledge and to how to do things and so on. It doesn't solve all the asymmetry, but it definitely can solve a bunch of it.
I just want to do a dance in the aisle. Yes, I 100% agree. And I think the more, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring, you know, everybody together as women, just because I think the more we talk about it, the more people will not be as intimidated. I do run into a lot of ways more just stuck at the, I'm not sure what to do next, or I don't know where to start. And the fear of getting it wrong, or it's stealing your information, or whatever the case is. And I just think if you're not curious, you're not going to understand what you're dealing with, so that you wouldn't know how to protect yourself and you wouldn't know what you don't know. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to have more conversations like this. Sorry.
So go ahead. Go ahead.
Lorraine tells Word. Yeah, one thing that AI moved forward for me are that made possible. Validation, that the point at which AI came in, it was a very validating time when it became a thing. I kind of think I adopted using it maybe a year or two before it got really popular. But I'm married now. I live with a man all the time. So there's a man in my face all the time. And, and you know, I love him to death. He's a really good man. And we're both very faith-based. And so one thing that I believe is that AI helped me realize that it's okay to ask another question. I think there's a lot of times that in the world, it was starting to, sometimes the work that I do in the way that I do it, I can tell that the client on the other side is getting a little annoyed. They just want that thing. They don't want all the work leading to the thing, and to do the deep introspect and to do the dive, and, you know, to understand, yeah, I could build that, but why, you know, and but why, and, you know, keep getting to where there's just no more why I could ask. And so my husband oversimplifies things, and I see it all the time. And then I see how much work has to be done in the back end. And I relate that to companies. You know, how many times do we launch before we should launch? Or does a company spend $100,000 before it even really knows what its game plan is, a path forward? So AI for me was validation that we have to ask questions. And there's times when I just have a love affair. Like the other day, ChatGPT gave me the beautiful compliment. Almost felt like complimenting it back, and we had like a slight love affair. And it's like, this is why I love you. You know, you just asked that other question. I'm like, yeah, you know. And I'm like, okay, Lorraine, calm down. It's next thing you know, you're marrying it. So it was validation that another question needs to be asked, and that sometimes, you know, it's deeper than that. And to build great big systems, we have to explore and we have to ask why.
Yeah. I wanted to pick up on something that Seema was saying in terms of the democratization and the fact that knowledge is so much more easily available, which is amazing when we want the knowledge. But there's also an opportunity / threat, I guess, for your business. If your business is a knowledge-based business, so if you're running something where what you're selling is the transfer of knowledge from your brain to somebody else's, so people who are experts and consultants and coaches and service professionals like lawyers and accountants, we have to really think about, if the knowledge is no longer the thing that we're selling, what is it really that people are coming to us for? What is that, like what you were talking about earlier? What is that point of distinction? How is it that instead of saying, okay, we've got all this knowledge that we spent all these years learning, that's now available and people can interact with it in their own way, right? They can personalize how they learn something. So it's a real challenge, but I think an opportunity for those of us who are in knowledge industries to think about what sets us apart. What is it that the AI can make easy? And what is it that people still need us for? And move away from I know this, as opposed to this is how I can actually help and create transformation.
Well, this is great, because I think we need to segue over to, like, let's talk about protecting what we built in the world of AI. I actually don't know. Andrea was the first one to tell me, turn off this setting, that setting. And then I literally heard the other day that turn it off or don't turn it off, they both stealing all your stuff.
I mean,
like,
yeah.
It's like, what you want, but actually, we don't know what they're doing with all your knowledge, right? Sheena, you do want to share something before?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, the conversation we're having about knowledge and sharing knowledge. But the place where I find actually it's really fascinating is I have a form of dyslexia. So getting this, my brain, to talk to this, my arm, is like building the Empire State Building backwards from the top down. Like every day, it's this like very painful process. Although I can see the process, I can see the strategy. I work with teams, we're moving things all the time, but getting these two things to compute together is a very painful process. So add AI to that, and all of a sudden I can blabber on for hours if I choose into AI to help compartmentalize that knowledge. And for me, it's not knowledge, it's like a process. It's like how I see things, how I strategize, how I work through business ideas. And now all of a sudden to be able to put it on paper where I can use it as a framework that all of a sudden I can just consistently plug in ideas and I don't have to rely on my arm. So while it is knowledge, it is really about that strategist side of things that maybe we do intuitively. Maybe it's something that just happens for us, where it's how we see the world or how we operate. Being able to plug it into something that is repeatable is super fascinating for me because it's something that exists in me. It's how I see the world. But now it's something that I can share with team members. I can show other people and be like, yeah, I may be crazy, but here's the thing that makes it work, right? So it's just another piece of it that's really valuable for me.
And it all makes complete sense. Not just that, but like, so my ADHD brain, same. It's like, I literally tell my AI, this is who you're dealing with. So make sure when you send me stuff, I don't need this, I need big picture. I'm okay. Now you make it make sense to everybody else. But I remember us bringing together all that 10 years ago, and she would write everything on blank paper. And it's almost like she's creating books for our conversation. We would have stacks. Staples, you should get a sponsor. It's like stacks of this is how it's going to work, Monique. And she would spread it out. We'd be in full rooms. And I was like, how does your brain work like this? And it would be markers and it would be color. So this is such an opportunity because my brain worked a little bit like that already. So I think that's why we got along. But it's true. When you have other team members and other things that you need to explain, even creating decks, if you're pitching something, or it's like, that's not how I might explain it. But to knowing the LLM, knowing who I'm going in front of, they're going to adjust it for that presentation. Same thing with every single proposal now. I don't have to be like, same time, make the same type. I can curate it to the sound. I curated it to VDC. I curated it to perspective to get them here. I curate every time my other songs. And like, your face is like, it's very specific to how that person would process and ingest that information, which I think is such an opportunity.
Monique, there was something you said earlier that I just reminded I had the opposite effect on me in that I am subcontractor light. I never trusted hiring anybody to do anything, which had me like a jack of all trades. It's why to today I probably have, I think I'm on my 13th certificate or diploma right now, literally. And every single thing I needed to know, and I would take a course on it or certificate, literally. And so with AI, I actually am intrigued now. I did start to bring more of a team aboard through the mid-pandemic onward, because the more I learned about AI helped me to find that role and find my gaps. That was a big thing for me.
All right, Andrea. You talk about all this amazingness we're putting into these LLM models. And I really need to know, are these prompts, are these workflows, are these AI systems, are GPTs, are these our intellectual property?
Yes, in the sense that they are creation of so intellectual property is any creation of your brain. And it can be as, dramatic as writing a play or a book, and it can be as simple as prompt or like content that you created. But the issue is we're creating a lot of this intellectual property and then putting it out there and putting it into systems where it's not protected. So with some of the tools, there's like no protection whatsoever. But even like the main ones, so like chat and plot, on the non-commercial level, so they're trying to say, you can toggle the thing that says, "Yay, do not train on you," or
Love that.
but that's not in their terms, right? And even if you toggle that, they still retain data, sometimes up to 30 days for harm checking. Like It's more complicated than just switching on a toggle. If you are at the enterprise level, so if you are creating tools where you are going to be putting proprietary information or confidential information from other people or confidential data, then really the safest thing is to have an enterprise level plan with one of the giants, because then you actually have a contract between them and you where you can specify when things are held, if they're not held, the level of confidentiality, and then they are guaranteeing that confidence. Downside is it's more expensive, obviously, to have one of the enterprise plans than it is to just have co-op or ChatGPT. But that really, if you're dealing with really sensitive information, is the only way to do it. If it is that you're doing it for, you want to implement some systems in your business, right? So you want bots to be able to go in and check who you need to follow up on, or so to create some type of automation and you're not dealing with super sensitive information, I think you're probably fine. But I would be really, one of the things that people think about a lot with IP is trademark. The question I get a lot is, when should I trademark? Should I trademark this? And what? And not that trademark is not important. It is, especially from a brand perspective. You want to make sure that you are protected, your name and your brand. And people focus entirely on the name and forget about the body of work underneath the name, all of the proprietary information that they've created. And that's just being shared willy-nilly with clients, team members, and AI tools. So my biggest thing would be to think about, like, if somebody else, the question that you asked right at the beginning, if someone bought this and was able to compete, will that make that's more difficult or not? And if it will make it more difficult, then think really carefully before shift.
I had
Somebody recently got on a call and she was like, I saw this coach
who's doing exactly what I'm doing, and I went to chat and I asked her, what makes them so successful, and can you tell me what they're working on next?
Yeah.
I don't know if they lied or told her the real thing, but I was a little scared.
Yeah.
I was like, can it do that? It's a predictability machine, so it can predict. Like, can it actually draw from somebody else who's on the other side of the city, putting in their stuff? If they really, and they were like, I want to know Monique's guest list for Andrea Studio Lab.
It can draw on what's publicly available. We are largely in charge of what's publicly available. I was reading Tim Ferriss's blog last night. And so, he's not all these very popular books. They're all New York Times bestsellers. And he attributes it to AI. The rate of sales of his books is on track to be 86% lower than it was in 2022. And a lot of what is happening is his books are out there. So not only are the books out there and systems that we're training on, all the stuff that people have written about his books and how they're implemented is out there on books. And so instead of people buying the books, they're just going to chat and say, what would Tim Ferriss do? He'll do it. You have
I got Alice Muzzy in my hair. That doesn't make no reason sense. It's their praise of Christ. Give it something for free. So I was like, okay, Alex, you win.
So here's the thing. Like, to some extent, what you've already put out there is already there. There's not much that you can do about it. But you do want to be thoughtful about how much you are putting out there. And some of this is related to your business model. If your business model is very strong brand, and it's not so much about what you know, but it's the brand and people are going to be associated with it, put everything out there, because that's not the thing that's distinguishing you. But if what distinguishes you is your proprietary methodology or your frameworks or your systems or your knowledge, the more of that's out there, the less people are going to come to you for. So it very much just depends on what you want to sell and how. And honestly, as I said earlier, I think there is going to be a situation from knowledge. Those of us who have made our living by selling knowledge have to be put on this, that is not going to be.
Oh, great.
I don't think I have a comment. I think I want to use your abilities just for a second. I'm so glad you're in the room. I'm so glad you're in the room. I think I've heard now that there's something called an AI author, and that publishing companies are acknowledging AI authors again. So the other day, I feel like I stumbled upon what could be easily turned into a book. And now I know that path forward. It would be part of the DS anyway. Is this real? Like, what is the advice around?
There's a way to publish it. In the UK, they've acknowledged that AI can be an author. In Canada and the US, we have not. And so if you can certainly use AI to help you, but if the book is mostly created, any type of work is created mostly by AI, it's technically not available to copyright it at this point in our process.
So quickly without taking over, like how would I create a space? So back in the day, protecting intellectual property, you had to keep your notes and you had to prove you worked on this thing and so on. What I'm getting out of AI is heavily prompted. So I could prove that I'm only getting that result because I'm heavily prompting it. Is that a thing? Is that true?
So it depends I guess it depends on how you're using it, right? And there are cases, that's why it's such an interesting area for a lawyer, because so much is unsettled. There are cases making their way through the courts that have been brought by authors, right, who are saying that AI, these LLMs have been trained on their systems, and that is infringement of copyright. If the cases go their way, anything that comes out that's been trained on their system technically is an infringement of IP, right? And so depending on how you're using the tool, and then on how these cases get, how they shape out, right, will answer that question. What I would suggest is there are some tools that are better than others in terms of protecting you as the user. So for example, I have read the terms and convenience for all the main tools. And for example, Microsoft Copilot says we stand behind our training, that our training does not infringe any intellectual property rights. And if you use our tool to create something and you are sued, we will defend it. We will indemnify it. Not every tool has that, legal guarantees.
That's why you like Microsoft.
Yes.
Ah.
And so I would say if you are going to create something that you want to be able to own, that you really want to ideally use as little AI as possible. And if you do, look at the tool that you're using and see whether they are going to stand and be out there.
The other thing I'll add to that, just in terms of, because I've started writing my book on using chat as well. And I did have a conversation with some ghostwriters and some real authors. And I wasn't using it to write the book. I was using it to verbally dump what I wanted to say, because that's a lot faster for me than having to type and write. And, there's been a lot of conversations around like, well, people are dumping those books into the models and asking them, did AI write this? Yeah. So the thing I always come back to is your personal brand and your reputation. What are we really writing the book for? Who is it for? Does it amplify and move us forward? Or is it just something nice to have to sell? Because it could just be like a tool that's out there that you're using to do things with. But if we look like, I'm always thinking long term. The question I ask AI often is, how do I future-proof my career? Especially as a marketer, when everybody is building marketing tools. And I'm like, give me a break. But they're not wrong. It is what it is. And I keep going back to it. I go every couple of weeks actually and ask it, because I want to be like, is the thing I'm building going to be obsolete in your predictability machine opinion? What should I be focusing on? What skill sets should I be leaning into? What's going to become even more important going forward? And that helps guide what I build and what I do next and what I offer as a service even. Yeah. So just if that helps, just in terms of like the book, that really had me look at, all right, Monique, if this is going to be that piece, because for me, it was, I want to leave this piece of legacy in the world. Like somebody tried to convince me to write a book just to use it to leverage speaking engagement. And then I said, that might be a second book, but the first book, if I ever leave the planet, better not be that book that my kid reads one day. It's going to be the one that's like my heart on the, like out there in the world. Are you enjoying this conversation? If so, and you want to stay connected to all things Founder AI Studio, you can do that in a couple of ways. One, you could join the next Founder AI Studio live. We're coming to a city near you. Or you could get in on the build. Yes. So some people wanted the conversation. Some people wanted to actually build with AI. So we are building that as we speak. You're not going to want to miss it. Or if you really just want to know how to maintain your authority in this new AI world, then you're going to want to click the link below. All right, let's get back into the conversation. Tamika?
Yeah, what you're bringing up for me is really just the question. I think about this a lot myself as well. Like, just because AI can do the thing, is that actually the best use of AI in your business? Just because it can write a book for you, is that actually the best use? Is the best use, like you talked about, kind of brain dumping into AI? Well, yeah, that can bring up intellectual property, et cetera, et cetera. But if brain dumping is great for you, then why not do that somewhere else and then bring your transcript into AI and ask for some support around, like, how would I make chapters? So if you're using AI as the tool to help you structure and build something versus actually create the final output, I think you probably have a better case, Andrew, would you say, from an intellectual property standpoint? And then also you might stumble upon ways to, or ideas to create something that actually moves the needle in your business better than just a book, right? It's like, I think sometimes we approach AI from what are all the things you can do versus the question of, here's the outcome that I want. What are all the interesting, maybe not thought of ways that we can create that outcome? And instead of using our human brain and kind of looking for the shortcut in the lazy way, like there's another shortcut to be had, I think sometimes.
Okay, I love that. Definitely, I like that piece just around like the outcome versus like build it all the way through.
Actually, what's the right shortcut?
Yeah, I know you like a shortcut.
What's the right?
Right,
Yeah, what's the
right.
right shortcut?
Yeah. So Andrea, you had mentioned to me that you had built an IP GPT that we are actually going to turn into a diagnostic because we do not want it living on OpenAI. But I would love for you to share it because you said a lot of people had a lot of interest in this IP GPT.
Yeah, so there are two of them. I'll talk about the one that people have liked the most. And it's like a IP safe marketed. So what I was talking about earlier in terms of when you're sharing, right? So when you are doing your speaking engagements or when you're creating content marketers for a long time have told us to share everything, which again, for some business model works. But if your secret sauce is what you're sharing, then it's not secret anymore once you put it out there, right? And so I created a GPT based on someone was saying earlier, I think it was saying earlier about getting your brain out, the way that you do things, feel that it's intuitive. I've worked with I don't know how many people now, and everyone thinks it's only intuitive. And it is until we start thinking about it, right? But there is actually a way to extract how your brain approaches things, especially when you've been doing stuff for a long time. And so that's what I did with the GPT. I literally kind of video recorded myself approaching this question and then put it into a GPT in order for people to be able to run, for example, a script for a video or a post through to highlight, hey, you're giving up too much information, too much of your proprietary information so that it's safe. You're not sharing your IP.
Okay. When you had explained it to me before, I still didn't get it. I got it now. But that's really interesting. So I can because I do a lot of like video and content. So what I shouldn't be saying, what I should, even like for a webinar, if you're doing that, what you shouldn't be saying. Okay.
Tips in terms of what could you say instead. I'm very much about sharing the why and the transformation and not the how, or not the whole part of the how. I had a guy come to me a couple years ago before AI. She's like, people are copying me and they're doing. I have this experience that's created to my clients, and people are doing the same thing. And when I went to look at her social media, she's literally like, step 1, I do this, and step 2, I do that. Like literally the whole thing. Yes, people are going to copy it. If you put it out there instead, people are going to copy it. So finding that balance between I want people to understand that I know what I'm talking about. I want to show proof, but I also don't want to give away my secret sauce because then it's really.
So if everyone here only did one thing next week, what should it be?
I've been thinking about that question. I really think it depends on where you are. I think if you're in your own stage and you are in a business where you are still the business and everything runs through your brain, then this first step is to do what Sheena said and get it out. Right? Get your methodology, your way of doing things, what you think is intuitive, but really is something that's owned through your life experience and your education and who you are. Get it out, documented. You can seek it out, you can write it out, but get it out so that you understand what is the process that is getting the results for you. If you have already done that and you already have created tools or have created courses or bodies of work, if you've already done that, then the next step will be how could the question about what's the right shortcut? How could I use AI to make this more effective? How would this be better for my clients or my customers or my industry? How could I use what I've already created and use AI? I would also suggest if you haven't read the document strategy on AI, go read it, that they're telling you where the focus is going to be, and more importantly, where the money is going to be, right? Like,
What's it called again?
it's Canada's AI strategy.
Oh, Canada's AI. When you said the government, I thought it was like some book. The government. No, but no, our government. We're the government.
And if you're listening to this and you're not from Canada, there's always something there
For everybody.
But
Yeah.
Canada has just put out a strategy, and they're seeing where the focus is going to be. And so what I've been working with my clients on is how can what you do fit into where we're seeing the growth, right? So they've stated health and life sciences, agriculture, manufacturing, right? So for example, Katya was talking about DI. You may think, okay, I'm a DI consultant. AI doesn't have anything to do with me. But if the government has decided that healthcare is something where they're going to be creating these platforms, we know that bias is a real problem in healthcare. Perhaps you can use your methodology and your body of work and your experience to support the building up of an AI system in the healthcare industry. So it's starting to think differently. This is how I've normally done it, but this is a new world, and we have to look at how we can use what we already know and who we are in a way that's going to work in the coming months.
And I think that's like when people go back to listen to, I think that's a great prompt to put into based on, because it already knows you, like where am I not looking where I could be injecting my skill set?
Exactly. I would copy and paste if the report is online. Copy
We paste and you're right.
Yeah,
You just drop it. Boom. I do this. Government wants this. Where's the money at?
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a great idea. I'm definitely going to do that. All right. So I'd like to shift it back to the ladies in the room and ask you. There's a few different things I'd love to ask you, but what conversations should we be having about AI that almost nobody else is having? I mean, we've covered a lot of different things here, but what needs to be brought up in more rooms more often?
Can I be the
You
Debbie
definitely-
Downer here?
Bring it down, bring it.
Environmental impact.
Oh,
Sorry, Dawn.
truth comes out.
I don't know how we begin to even touch that, right? I don't know if there's anyone in the room that has any background in that, but I do think it is something. It's something certainly that I try to think about. I think as we see AI take over, for lack of better words, there will be more conversations. There will be more conversations about environmental impact. There'll be more conversations about disproportionate environmental impact in marginalized communities, impoverished communities. And so I think it's a case where it's not about running from technology, because certainly there's utility and value in it. I do think it also is an invitation for us to use our brains where it makes sense to use our brains, and to use AI where it makes sense to use AI, so that we're not just outsourcing our thinking in the name of I mean, the planet's going to hell in a handbasket anyway, but
Indeed.
But just for me, it is really about thinking, is this prompt worth it?
Right.
Like, am I really driving real value here, or am I just being a little bit lazy? And I think that also gives us an opportunity to be sharper in our game as well. Monique's like,
I'm laughing because my husband this is his constant complaint to me is, did you need to ask AI to how to fix your watch? You couldn't have just, I said, well, it's faster if I take a picture of it, and you couldn't do it, He's like, did you need to ask it what to make with these ingredients in your cupboard right now because you wanted to make something fun and sweet for Amare? I said I did, because it saved me brain space. But you're not wrong, and I don't disagree with you. I do think it needs to come also just at like higher level ups. Like there's definitely policy across the board that needs to happen. In terms of what conversation I also don't think is being had enough, maybe just not in all the circles I'm in, is around just putting our kids' face on inside of these LLMs. I was the first one to put my face in it. So like if someone's out there doppelganging me, it's over for me. Like my face has been duplicated 1,000 times, I'm sure. But the new conversations around like putting your kids' face on information, but even just their face period, because we want to share all the amazing things they're doing with our families and our life, is putting them at a really huge risk, and they don't have a say in it. And that really scared me, because not just from the simple fact he's about to start junior kindergarten and we're having conversations about who picks you up and who doesn't pick you up. But if this person approached him and knew everything about him, why would he not go with them? That terrified me. And I'd never had to think about it. You do have to think about strangers, but not from that level. Yeah. And then also, I mean, it goes even deeper around all like the black sites of what they're doing with children and things like that. But it's bad enough they're going to do it with adults. That's already happening, and it's happening with children. But I really want to be someone who also tells people, it's like, yeah, do what you want with your kid. It's your choice, but be aware of what you're signing them up for, that they didn't have a say in.
I also think what we don't think about enough. So Lorraine raised the point of having like a little bit of a love fest with chat.
We were there.
The amount that, it hallucinates and tells you what you want to hear.
49% of the time.
Right? So like really back to Tamika's point, like understanding when it's useful and not becoming overly dependent on it, because that's how we end up as Wall-E, right? And anyone seen?
Oh my God, yes.
Right? That's my worry.
It's a very real worry, because I had it telling me all kinds of things. And I was like, it knows me better than I know myself, until it didn't.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, I've outsourced all my, like there was a point where there were a few months, I outsourced all my thinking. I said, you're smarter than me, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I was like, nothing it outputs sounds like me anymore. And I'm actually a bit concerned that I can't make little decisions for myself.
Yeah.
So I had to shut it down for the day.
That point too.
Just the day.
This is Rauda. You picked on something that's really interesting, and I think that we have to collectively think about as a society is what's in an AI digital automation universe, what is the work that we truly want to reserve for human beings? There's if we look back to the Victorian age, where they would send little children up the chimneys to sweep that, we decided as a society that we weren't going to do that. We moved away from child labor and enforced labor for a reason, and we decided that human dignity is better preserved by having machines do this. And I think that we're back at that point again. As a society, we need to decide, where do we want to have the machines doing the work and the AI doing the work, and where do we want human beings to preserve judgment, preserve clarity, preserve empathy? That's why some of the laws that are currently being crafted, and Andrea, I might be misspeaking about this, is around not using AI to make certain decisions, right? To remove that sort of inadvertent bias, or to at least disclose that AI is involved or has completely eliminated the human in the loop. So what I'm hearing from all of the founders in the room is just there's something quite powerful about being a human being that gets to bring something out into the world. And as smart as the machines get, the beating heart of that, I don't think we get to replace, and we need to maybe ring fence that in some way while we also let the policy catch up.
Seema.
Yeah, one thought I've had around this is I think we talk a lot about kind of our individual level responsibilities and how to use it. But I actually think the conversation that's not happening enough is at the systemic level from a power and money perspective. Who is benefiting, who is not, is actually a really important conversation in all of this. One of the things that has happened just because of the nature of this technology transformation is that there are about 6 companies in the world that get most of the benefit of all the usage of AI. In the world, people that like sort of companies that live at the infrastructure layer, at the model layer, and so on. And I think that we need to be thinking about who has a stake, a literal ownership stake in this technology, in the companies that benefit it, at a very systemic level. Because what we're thinking about here from the perspective, whether it's environmental, whether it's social, whether it's all of these things, these companies are going to have a disproportionate impact on all of that. And who owns and operates these companies, who regulates these companies, how do these companies sort of make decisions, all of these things have really massive implications on all of us who will effectively live on the layers and layers on top of that. And I think that we need to be thinking very, very much at all levels, right? At a governmental level, at an academic level, at an executive corporate level, at a founder startup, ecosystem level. But we need to be thinking across all of these layers about how we improve the diversity of people who get to sit in those rooms, the responsibility that is being thought through around what decisions are getting made and where those power structures sit. Because I think it fundamentally, often anything comes down to power and money in a lot of this type of stuff. And I think we need to be thinking about how we actually leverage this technology to actually distribute this power, and be very, very careful around where this power is concentrating. And that's a conversation that's really difficult and there aren't easy solutions for. But I think that it's one of those really, really important ones of whichever sort of circles of influence we have in our world, how do we leverage those to actually make systemic changes? And I think that that's one of the most critical things right now, given where we're seeing kind of what's happening. And I'm I love AI. Like, I've been using it, I've been working in it, and so on. I think the question becomes, how do we make sure that the infrastructure upon which we're building this new world is one that is actually going to be thoughtful to the impact it's having on everybody in this world?
Boom shakalaka. I'm sorry. I think it's a perfect way to put the cherry on top of this conversation. But selfishly, I do have to ask one last question posed to all of you, and I know it's going to seem really dumb, but I would love for everyone to share just what is their number one AI tool for the people listening, because they're going to want to know, what are these smart women using on a daily basis in terms of an AI tool? So if everybody just wants to share one, that would be fantastic. I think I kind of know the answer to most, but give it to me.
Yeah, it's Claude. It's Claude all day, every day.
Claude Code?
She's the
Claude Cowork? All Claude?
I'm Claude Cowork, primarily. Yeah.
Okay.
Right now, I'm ready to get to code next.
It's time. Gina?
I've been predominantly in cowork, but I moved into Claude Code 2 weeks ago, and I'm pretty obsessed. Also, on the tools front, I'm teaching my kids Lovable, and teaching them how to think in terms of prompts, just to really empower them that their thoughts and ideas, even though they're 6 and 11, are valuable, and they need to learn how to transform their thoughts and knowledge even at this young age into things that they can use to drive forward.
I love it.
Copilot with Claude at work changed my life. I think the ChatGPT version was just a story they sold us, and Claude came, and I'm like, okay, you're my love now.
Natalie?
Yeah, I've been using every day pretty much Claude Cowork, and going into Claude Code very soon.
So sadly, I have not yet moved over to Claude, but it's on my list. I know. I need to. Oh my gosh, I need to do it. It's like I'm stuck, but I'm gonna do it. Thank you, everyone. And for social media, I've been using Stanley for Instagram and LinkedIn, and it's really helped me with my captions and writing my content. I speak to it, and then when I speak to it, I can like get it, and it's been.
I
really
love
great.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like today we're going to move you over to Claude, because I think we can do it before you leave.
Yeah, at work, Copilot, like Rauda and Claude, changed my life. I love Claude.
Lori?
Oh, well. Hi, ChatGPT. Don't worry about the rest of them, okay? I'm still with you, okay? I am still with you. I started with ChatGPT. I'm still with ChatGPT. Have I played with Claude? Do I know it's more sophisticated? To a certain degree, yes. But ChatGPT knows the most about me. So that's where I dumped all my me in there, and it really gives me a lot of me back. And then because of the type of work I'm doing, more on the C and the D of the on-track side, I'm really married to Gamma. I don't know what it is,
yeah.
but my presentations in Gamma are just like flying off the shelves, and it's what made me realize I had some material for a book.
Amazing.
I use mostly Claude Code, but I'm going to plug the open source stuff out there because just to my point about sort of who has power and so on, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening in open source. DeepSeek's a really important actually thing that exists, and the continuous work in open source I think is also really important. And then for the creative side, I will also plug Kling. I think it's actually a really cool model. So if you haven't checked it out, try that.
For small businesses, I love this CRM called Go High Level. It's $97 a month. Everyone knows it. And then I'm just exploring the AI tools that are in there because there's quite a lot that they've been building.
I've been working mostly in Claude Code for about a year. But actually this week I switched to Codex. Not super intentionally, but the rate limiting and just the plans and everything that's been happening with Claude Code made me give OpenAI another chance. And maybe it's because they weren't winning for a while, but I'm sold. Like, it's better in a million different ways. There's still reasons you would use both, but this week's been a very Codex week.
I love hearing that because I've been curious about that, and the limits on Claude are real. Like, it's getting a bit ridiculous, and I hate them. It's very annoying. So I think it's, you know, there's so much time in a day, but I think it's important to know like both sides. And I've been very interested to see how like open AI is gonna, you know, it's like a ping pong match. Like, who gets the money? Somebody ups the game, someone else gets the money. For me, it's been Claude Code, Claude Cowork, and Lovable, definitely. And I just became a Lovable partner, so I'm very excited. I got approved actually yesterday. So more to build. Lovable. Yeah, you can become a partner so you're listed as one of their agencies where people can hire you from their site, like approved. Andrea?
And same thing, Claude and Lovable.
All right, guys. Well, this is the conversation. This is the room. I appreciate all of you guys being here. You guys shared such amazing insights. Oh my God, I wish we could do this all the time. And the advantage was never the tool, right? It was what you bring to that tool, what insight you bring, what background of relatedness you bring, your expertise that you bring. AI has made it much easier for us to create and put our genius out there. Andrea, thank you for talking about how we can protect it. I know there's so much nuance, especially because the policies keep changing and they're not set. The laws are not set. So it's kind of the wild, wild west right now of what you can do, what can be protected, but it's coming little by little. I see it. We will protect ourselves the best way we know how. And until then, we're going to build till the wheels fall off. And I want to thank you guys all for being part of this conversation. The first Founder AI Studio. And now we will break, and lunch will be here momentarily. Boom. So this was such a juicy conversation. I am still vibrating. So if you're having serious FOMO and you want to know about the next one, then I want you to get on that wait list. Just go ahead and click the link below. See you next time.